Hi everyone, and welcome to my fall series. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you click that button. For this first DIY, you're going to need a Dollar Tree pumpkin and one of these cookie baking trays. And I'm just going to take the pumpkin and trace out the tray. This is a really easy way to give your cheap little pumpkin from the Dollar Tree a quick facelift. I love working with their baking trays. They give an instant metal look, and I love the bumpy texture. I think that's a cool look. And here I'm wearing gloves. You can see I'm cutting off the stiff edge, and that kind of ensures that you won't get cut. But if you watch what I'm doing, the minute I start going around and that edge is bending towards my hand, I cut it off and let it fall. And that's the safest way that you can cut these trays so that you don't get cut, is by getting the stiff edge off. And then when you cut, bending the piece. If you're right-handed, it would be the piece on the outer right-hand side. You can see it right there. It's starting to bend on the outer right-hand side. If you keep going up, the edges of that risk cutting your skin. So see how I just clipped it away? That's the safe way to cut these. I have never gotten cut yet, and I do wear gloves just to be careful, but it sure is worth taking your time to cut them out because they really do add a higher end to a cheap pumpkin from a dollar store. Now, for those of you that don't live by a Dollar Tree, or don't have good Dollar Trees, or you don't have Dollar Trees that have their fall items out just yet, you can easily substitute cardboard for this. I would just suggest cutting the foil baking pan bigger so you can bend it over the edge of that cardboard, and then covering the back of your little pumpkin with brown paper, felt, just something to make sure you don't get cut on the edges of the foil, because it'll be harder. Just with cardboard, it's harder to get those edges. You know, if you put the twine on the edge of the cardboard, it doesn't quite protect you from the edges of the foil. I don't know why, but I found that it just doesn't work quite as well. So here you saw me use hot glue, and now you see me using my glove to press it down. The metal does conduct heat, so be careful you don't get burned. You are going to need some kind of heating pad or glove to press that down. And here I'm taking scissors, I'm cutting the edges of the foil off so that what I just talked about doesn't happen. I won't get cut. I even use a blade, which I don't bother showing on film, to go really close to the edge, and I wear magnifying glasses that you can get from the Dollar Tree just to make sure I don't miss any edge, because when I pick this up, I don't want to accidentally get cut, and I don't want anyone else to either. So now I'm using the color Country Gray by Apple Barrel, and I'm just going to sponge it all over the front of the foil to hide that it's foil. This method is going to leave behind just enough shine and sparkle to give away that it is a metal piece. You know, for the naked eye, if someone looks at it, they'll register that it's a metal piece, but without it leaving too much shine behind, because I think, you know, the cookie trays are a wonderful trick to have a faux metal piece like you got it from a craft store. And if, by the way, if you do decide to do cardboard, you could glue 3 cardboard pumpkins together and really bend it over the edge to make it look like a super thick metal pumpkin. That would also be super cute. But you do have to cover the shine a little bit. Whatever color you want to use, you don't have to use gray. I like using gray. You don't have to. You could do it a different color because they do have painted metal in the craft stores, but you definitely have to tone that shine down. So now I'm doing the little curvatures, and I left this part in. I'm wiping it. You see that? I just turn my sponge sideways and wipe it away. And I left this on purpose so you can see how easy it is to make corrections. Now that gray paint was already dry, so you do have to spray a little bit of a clear varnish over this craft piece when you're done. You could use hairspray for this particular piece. That would be fine. But I just keep working with it until I get curvatures I'm happy with. You could always do a pattern if you want. I did it freehand, so I did have to make some adjustments, but I wanted to show you how easy it was to make those adjustments. Now I'm making a messy bow, and the ribbon I'm holding right now, the buffalo plaid, and that red striped, ticking stripe one that I was holding before, both of those come from other places. The buffalo check comes from Amazon, and the ticking stripe one came from Etsy. They're all sold out on Etsy. The buffalo check, I believe, is in a link down below in my description box if you're interested in that one. And the rest are Dollar Tree ribbons, and you just cut them all in different pieces, you tie them together, and voila, you have a messy bow. And I absolutely love this look for autumn. I don't know why, but I'm really into the messy bows right now. I think they are so cute looking. And I took the leaf off of this pumpkin, turned it around. I also gave it some dimension with the nutmeg color, and I'm taking that burlap leaf, which is also from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to glue it behind there, and I'm just doing embellishments. But if you're into farmhouse neutral, this is such a perfect craft piece. It looks so cute. And of course, last but not least, a raffia bow. I love raffia at fall time, and I just think this came up so cute. This is my inspiration piece. I saw it on Pinterest, and I just think it's such a cute idea. I'm going to make it using shims. You could use paint sticks or whatever you want. And I'm starting off by using some black paint and painting my shims. You could also use a dark charcoal gray if you wanted to do that route. And I'm going to take and dry brush some white paint over it. Now, my camera turned off when I was dry brushing and when I glued the frame together, and it was driving me nuts. I didn't have the anyway, sorry about that. But dry brushing, for those of you that don't know, is where you just put a tiny bit of paint on your brush. It would be white paint in this instance, and I dab it a little bit on a paper towel and then gently sweep it over the wood until you come up with this look here, which kind of imitates an old barn wood look. And that's it. And so I'm using some Dollar Tree florals now. I'm cutting them up. This piece here came from the Goodwill. It was just these big floral pieces. I don't even know what they were, but they were only 50 cents, and I knew I could cut them up and use them for crafting. And I'm just wrapping a piece of it together using some of the hula skirt raffia from the Dollar Tree. And we're going to go about decorating this frame just like what we saw. And I'm also going to do a messy bow again. I love them. You're going to see a lot of them. I think they're such a cute trend. They're so fun to make. I think I like them because it allows you to put so many different ribbons in the bow. Whereas when you do a regular bow, it's harder to get all those variations. I mean, you could loop a bunch of ribbon together, but you would waste a lot of ribbon to get the same vibe, I guess. And so that's not very cost effective. And they also look very dressy. You know, if you go too big with those and use too much ribbon, you can almost look like a wedding bouquet. So these are just a really fun trend. I'm really enjoying. They're not overly dressy. They kind of keep that look of, you know, if you want to go a little rustic, especially with fall, even if you don't do farmhouse, fall kind of lends itself to farmhouse just because of the pumpkin patches and the hay rides. A lot of the decor kind of revolves around that theme. So these are just, in my opinion, a perfect bow for that. So I'm also going to take some raffia. I always try to add a little bit of that in with every fall craft because I think it gives it that edge that really signals it's an autumn craft. And I'm taking a mop thread. That's just a Dollar Tree mop thread there to tie this bow together. And that's it. When you're done tying it together, you just fluff these bows out and kind of twist them and make them, so you can see me doing it here, just kind of, you know, play with them a little bit until you get them spread out so all the pretty little different ribbons show. And you can also do this with material too. I think that would look really pretty if you wanted one that was kind of frayed. That would look really cute. And I'm taking some ribbon now, twisting it at the top so that it doesn't hang over the edge. So I'm able to hot glue it where I want it on the top. And that's it. I'm going to glue the bow down, the florals down, and we're going to end up with a super pretty decor piece that you can either hang on the front door, which you saw in the photo on Pinterest. In my home, it's hung in a window that I made from an old picture I got at the Goodwill. I actually just grabbed a picture. I think it was about $11. Got some wood from Home Depot and use some glue to glue it on like a window. And that was you're going to see it when it comes up in the finale, but my window was really simple to make, and it's super heavy and people think it's a real window. So that was kind of a neat thing I wanted to share with you. And at the very end, I'm going to glue some raffia on the top too to hang it. I just thought it would be kind of different to glue it in the front and then have that extra accent because the frame was very plain, rather than glue it behind. I usually put twine or something behind things to hang it, but in this instance I wanted the raffia in the front. And now I'm taking some leftover shims and I'm cutting them kind of roughly with a wire cutter there, and I'm just breaking them so that they look like an old little farmhouse sign. And I'm using this antique wax. You can use any brand of antique wax you want for this. You can use a water-based stain that I often talk about. It's an acrylic one. Also down below in my description box, it's odorless. That would work great for this too. And I'm just going to make this a little bit, dirty. Well, not dirty, a little stained. And because it went a little darker than I wanted, and because the wax is kind of more greasy and oily, I was able to take a baby wipe and blend it in and wipe it off, so it became a little bit lighter, which was nice. This is why I kind of steered away from the water-based stain, because I knew it would soak in like crazy, and then you can't do anything after that but dry brush a lighter color on top. So I went with the wax. And I write Happy Fall, glue it down, and that's it. I'm gluing the top raffia on that I mentioned earlier. And I think this, again, came up so cute, and it's super easy to do. Anyone can make this DIY. Here's my inspiration piece. It's $6.99 online, and I thought we can make this a lot cheaper. Here's a Dollar Tree mason jar and this year's calendar. It's a 2021 calendar, and I've been saving it for this print right here because I knew I wanted to use it for fall. You can use any print you want, and if you Google free autumn prints, so many blogs come on and they have absolutely gorgeous prints that they offer for free. They want you to go to their blog, obviously, but look around online and find a print that you really like because it's easy to do. They're very generous, I noticed, at the holidays. So for autumn and even Christmas, there's so many free printables out there for you. Now, you see me using the super thick cardboard again for this craft. My Dollar Tree has not put out these mason jars yet. I went and I was so excited. They had some fall stuff out and I bought what I could, but the girl told me, again, they're going to take about 2 weeks to put it all out. So it will all be out at the end of August. So I have a couple of ideas with this mason jar, and I didn't want to use the original for that. And I always like to show you how you can do it cheaper too. Now here's the glue stick from the Dollar Tree. I love this glue stick. You have to apply it really, really heavily, but it stops your print, especially if you're using thin paper, it stops it from wrinkling up and buckling up when you glue it down, whereas Mod Podge is very wet, and that's one of the struggles and complaints with people when they put it down, that it will bubble up and wrinkle when you don't want it to. Sometimes that's good. If you're putting it on wood, that buckling actually looks really neat if you sand afterwards. It kind of creates a raised area that naturally rubs off when you're sanding and looks really nice and distressed. So here I left this part in on purpose because it kind of gave a nice view of how much glue you have to use. When I say use a lot and be generous, for up until now the camera hasn't really caught that well, and I noticed it caught it really well when I was doing this craft. You can really see that white glaze on top with the cardboard. You really have to cover everything, but the glue stick works wonderfully. I'm just going around now and trimming because I am going to be covering the edges with some twine, and this is some burlap I got from Walmart. It was cheap. I think it was 4 something a yard, and I got half a yard, but it's been in half, so it's been lasting me now 2 years, so not a bad price. And I'm just going to glue it on the back. I did fray it a little bit on the bottom just so it has that nice frayed look. And I don't know if you're going to see here in a minute there. Can you see the lines from the cardboard? Usually I talk about if you want to get rid of those, use poster board or something on top of your cardboard. But with this particular craft, I wanted those lines to show through because I want this to look kind of like a white metal picture and just give that illusion, I guess. Now I do seal this with clear varnish. You could seal it with hairspray if you're not going to use it again, or if it's not a keepsake craft that you're going to keep a long time. The problem with hairspray, and why I didn't suggest it before, I have suggested it in previous videos, but what I discovered is after about 3 years, my craft underneath the Mod Podge had all yellow veins through it. So I think it was a hairspray that yellowed. And unless you know your hairspray doesn't yellow, or if you know you recycle your crafts a lot and you're just not going to keep them that long, so it's not important, I don't recommend hairspray anymore. I usually just recommend the clear polyacrylic or the clear varnish in matte. Just mist it, and that way you don't have to worry about that. Now, of course, if you have a Dollar Tree sign, go ahead and use the actual sign. Whether you use cardboard or the sign, if you're planning on putting it outside like I am, I do get wind where I live, so I'm still going to need to weight it down a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue either paint sticks on the back or a rock or something, or both, to hold it down. And for this, you could actually use the free paint sticks because nobody's going to see the back. And I'm using a button there from a cloth chocolate box that I upcycled on a previous video. I'm going to turn it over on the light side where there's some beautiful grain and it pops really pretty, and put it in the center there. I think that's a nice accent piece. But another trick too is if your cardboard is warping, let's say you only have thin cardboard, just cut out about 2 or 3 of them and glue them together and cover your craft that way. That way you won't have the buckling. Let's say you don't have free paint sticks and you don't have craft sticks, and you are needing to still make this look nice and heavy and not have it buckle or warp. That's another trick. You just use multiple layers of cardboard, because cardboard obviously is a form of wood and it gets thicker and thicker with the more that you put together. But this is the final result. For this craft, you're going to need a Dollar Tree vase. You can also use a jar, like a mayonnaise jar or a mason jar, and you're going to need some fall leaves and some Mod Podge. Now, this is going on all over online Pinterest. If you just Google fall jars, these come up in abundance. So if you want to take a look and see what I'm trying to accomplish here, I chose this old floral piece here that I've shown before. And I'm using the leaves from it because they've got those nice mellow brown ones, which I'm after, and then some bright ones here and there. And I'm taking and removing the middle plastic piece, I guess the branch there. Really simple to do, it just came right off. And of course I'm using the hair dryer trick to remove the sticker here. Now, you're always wiser in hindsight when you do these crafts. So here's this is my first time doing this kind of craft, and this is the tips that I want to share with you if you try to recreate this, because it came up absolutely gorgeous. Use leaves that are very pliable and bendable and easy, that take shape. So a better choice would have been cloth or a napkin, a fall napkin with leaves, or you can find these silk leaves that aren't so stiff. I didn't think about it when I was cutting them. Mine are very, very thick and stiff. They're high quality. So that made it very, very difficult to get them to stay flat. In the end, you'll see I actually put a blow dryer up, and I have to glue them down while I'm drying and kind of tap with my finger, and it all works out fine, but it was very difficult. Another idea too is you could find some fall leaves and print them up on tissue paper and apply it that way, the tissue paper. And you would, just anything that bends. don't use stiff leaves, because here I am right here with the dryer. I'm pressing with my sponge and drying at the same time to get the glue to be dry enough to hold the leaf down so I don't keep lifting, it doesn't keep lifting while I'm moving and doing my craft. Now I do end up Mod Podging the whole thing because that's what the little blog said to do that I went to. And this is the next morning and I don't like that. Maybe it would have dried more if I had left it, because that it's possible, since those were thicker lines, that is still mildly wet under there. Sometimes Mod Podge can take a few days to dry, but I just didn't like it. So I missed the crystal clear look of the vase. Now another thing you can do too is you can you can do what I'm doing, but I'm showing you how easy it is to remove this. I've talked about Mod Podge being a layer of plastic, and this is really going to show you exactly how and why it really is a layer of plastic. I don't think people realize it's truly a layer of plastic. And it just comes right off. I take that Dollar Tree, that's a Dollar Tree blade right there. I stuck it in another holder, but that's from the Dollar Tree. It's their little craft knife. And I just go around and cut all around the leaves on this entire vase. It doesn't take long. It's actually kind of fascinating. I was enjoying it. And I peel all that excess off. Then I take a baby wipe and kind of wipe anything that's left over. And I end up, for me, with a much prettier result. I could have taken it outside and sprayed a clear varnish on it, because that also gives it kind of that frosted glass look. But I just wanted to stop here. I wanted my glass to be really crystal clear. I guess I only wanted the leaves and the surrounding area of the leaves to have that kind of foggy, dreamy look. I didn't want the rest of the vase to do that. Maybe if it had been a jar, I would have, because jars, they're kind of a little more rustic, the mason jars. But for the vase, I wanted it to be just see-through glass. So totally personal preference. You guys can do it however you like. And I'm using some raffia here, keeping it simple. I just want a little bit of raffia tied on the top, and that's it. This is a really stunning craft when it's done, especially in the evening. I encourage you guys to try it. Just remember to use leaves that are easier, think we're going around the bends and the corners, and they're easier to lay down on a curvature. And I'm using some fairy lights, and that's it. It came up beautiful. If you had fun today and enjoyed the video, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. It really does help my video here on YouTube. And as always, until the next one, breathe deep, fret not, and do things that make you happy.